All right, so we're glad she's here to listen to
Right.
what we have to say today. So, all right, all right, Miss Stacey, do you want to introduce yourself, or do you want me to introduce you? How do you want to start today?
I can introduce myself. Hello, I'm Stacey Williams. I am the other half of Friendships Examined.
Hmm.
Am a marriage and family therapist. Um, and uh, Graduated from Trevecca. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, I don't think we have to say much more than that, you know. Um, I'm Tara. Um, I am a licensed clinical social worker, and we are on here this afternoon to have a little talk about conflict in friendships, how to manage conflict in female friendships.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right, so talk to us, Stacey. Get us going here.
All right. So, what we generally find with conflict in female friendships is that the conflict is surrounded with by mostly friends that are not celebrated when they're expected to. So, expectations not being met, right? Not getting support when they need it and when they feel like their friend should support them, and when a friend fails to reach out to them as much as they feel like a friend should reach out. So, you know, a friend having all of these expectations of what the friendship looks like, and those expectations unfortunately not being met by the other friend. And that tends to show up either internally or externally. And Tara, I'll let you explain how that shows up in friendships.
Yeah. So internally, so we have this. Well, how does it show up in friendships? You want me to talk about some of the unmet expectations, or do you want me to talk about the conflict that someone might have inside themselves when they have these unmet
I
expectations?
think both would be great.
Ooh, okay. Um, so how does that show up? Hmm. So, we're not necessarily taught in an explicit way how to be in friendship. It just sort of happens.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get this rundown of this is how you make a friend. This is how you would approach a person if you want to be friends with them. This is how you would continue to stay in connection with that friend. These are the kinds of things that you would do to maintain connection. Well, first of all, cultivate connection and to maintain connection in friendships. So that's one part of it. So we just bump along and we figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think sometimes come up with our own ideas about what friendship looks like. If we are giving ourselves in a certain way to a friendship, then oftentimes we expect that that person gives themselves that same way to us, right? So we would, if you're a person that loves to, like you said, celebrate your friend, that person's birthday is coming up. And you go all out and you maybe surprise them, buy them gifts. You might, drop by their place unexpectedly and hey, surprise, or something
Right.
like that. So that is something that you would do because you think that that's what being a good friend means.
And that's something you want.
And that's something that you want. Absolutely. So your birthday comes up and your friend doesn't match that same energy,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do the same kinds of things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this feeling that you're left, well, how good a friend is that person if they hadn't done the same thing that I would do for them. And they should know, what I want and need. That is really what this expectation is, that is out there somewhere. No one's stated it, no one's communicated it, but somehow, well, if she was my friend, she would know that I like that I wanted that she should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, of course, everybody's different. Everyone shows up differently in relationships, and then we have the added idea that we're not conditioned or explicitly taught how to do it, so we start to feel resentment, we start to feel irritation, we start to feel a little bit of anger, I would imagine, toward this friend. And so that's the things that go on internally. We start to feel these negative feelings, right? And it's like, well, what do we do with those feelings? How do we manage them? How do we address them, right? So I think one of the first ways that you can address sort of this internal unrest is to really talk it through in your own mind about, why am I feeling this way? What is it that is bringing me to this particular feeling, right? So, when we are sitting in front of our clients and we're talking about all the things that go on in their lives, we talk about, well, let's name the feeling for one thing, and let's get to, why are we feeling this way? Why do we think we're feeling this way?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we can have that conversation with ourselves when we're talking about, these feelings that we're having surrounding this incident that we haven't spoken up about necessarily. So we can go through this process of self-reflection. What kind of friend do I expect? Have I mentioned any of these expectations to my friend?
Mm-hmm.
And if I haven't, how do I get there?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So self-reflection in that way, getting down to, why am I feeling this way? Well, I feel angry. Why do I feel angry? Well, I feel angry because she didn't show up. Why do you feel angry? Because she didn't show up for you. Right?
Right.
What does that mean?
Right.
What does it mean? I don't know. Then we start to really drill down to the foundation of, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? And when we get down to the foundation of that, then usually we'll arrive at, well, I didn't realize that this thing was something that I really needed. I didn't realize that I expected this thing. I also didn't realize that my friend is different from me somehow, and I shouldn't automatically assume that she knows how to be in relationship with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So does that make sense, Stacey, what I'm saying?
Total sense, because what you do is you want to break the cycle, or what we like to call in therapy, the tape going on in your head, right? Because the tape that's going on in your head, it stops at a certain point, and it doesn't go any further. It just says, she was a bad friend, and that keeps going. Every time you think about it, that thought grows bigger, and that's why we want to do what you were just talking about, that self-reflection, kind of stretch that, really dig
Absolutely.
hard.
Yeah, we have some introspection rather than being reactionary to the situation.
I like that.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I mean, journaling about it would be helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
To get to really get those thoughts from here to on paper and expand what you're feeling, what you're thinking, why it's important to you. So
Yes.
and explain it to your friend in a healthier way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why is this important to me? What kind of messages have I received that has made this feel, different or negative or strange to me?
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you said, how do I bridge what I'm feeling, and what my relationship is with my friend? How do I get from where I'm at to, over here to having a conversation or communicating what I'm thinking or feeling to my friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those feelings also show up externally.
Hmm.
Right. What you were just talking about is the internal piece of it. And there's also an external piece of it. And that external piece of it, like you maybe not responding quickly, being passive aggressive toward your friend, being curt with your friend, um, or ending the friendship altogether, right? Just cutting your friend off and not speaking anymore.
Hmm.
How often do you are?
You broke up just a minute there. Say that again,
How
Stacey.
often do you see that happen where we just cut our friendship off?
I see that a lot. I see the people really go all the way there without doing anything in the middle, right? And that shows up much more in friendship relationships than it shows up in other types of relationships. It doesn't show up that strongly in family relationships when there's conflict, and it doesn't show up that strongly in romantic relationships when there's conflict. You know, when there's conflict in family relationships, we say, oh my goodness, we have to figure this out. We're family. We have to continue to have a relationship, and we have to continue to have a relationship in a certain way in family. I think a lot of folks feel that way when it comes to family relationship. When it comes to romantic relationships, it's that message of, oh my gosh, this is important. We need to work this out. We need to work this through. We have to communicate. How many times have we seen, on, everywhere in every book that we've read, now that we have so much social media on a lot of the social media platforms in terms of, we're involving romantic relationships, communicate. You have to communicate.
Hmm?
That doesn't come across very strongly in relationships in terms of the culture of friendships. Um,
Yeah.
we put female friendships sometimes at the bottom when it comes to that. So we just react to it. Oh, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. She hasn't responded to me and I haven't heard from her, so I'm just done with it. I'm not going to deal with it at all. you know and so what we want to do here is we want to take you through the process of maintaining this relationship, which we feel, and I know you would agree, that is just as important
Mm-hmm.
as the family relationship, just as important as your romantic relationships, is just as valuable as those two relationships.
Right.
Somehow we've gotten the message in our culture that friendships are temporary, that they're not as valuable, that they shouldn't be as important as your other relationships.
Right. But studies
Mm-hmm.
that friendships are into our mental health.
Absolutely. We thrive when we have friendships, when we have healthy friendships, and we have that kind of village surrounding us.
Mm-hmm.
We really thrive in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
not just in certain areas, but just as a whole human.
Yeah.
We have, um, there's so much value there, so much vitality that it brings us as a human to have friendships and have healthy friendships surrounding us, and to be a healthy friend
Right.
to
Right.
to the folks that we're friends with. I think that's important to note as well.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
I have been, I think, guilty of that myself. I have often reflected that I let a friendship go, and I've been with my husband for 20 years and have stretched beyond what I typically do in friendships. And I'm like, why am I doing this in a relationship and not in the friendship that I got so much support and love from at the
Yeah,
point before this conflict?
definitely.
So
Yeah.
to go back to the internal piece of um, working on the conflicts, I have to say, always go to therapy. You can always go to therapy and talk to someone so that so they can give you an unbiased opinion of, what they're hearing,
Yeah.
explain the conflict and when you explain your friendship.
Yeah, yeah, and to help you, what I call pull the threads, to make the connections,
Mm-hmm.
you know, about, who you are as a human, where you come from, where where your sensitivities lie in terms of relationships, to help you see, what's connected to what. A good therapist will help you see that picture and get that puzzle, straightened out,
Mm-hmm.
have all those puzzle pieces put in the correct places so you can see yourself clearly,
Mm-hmm.
more clearly, and get clarity on where that comes from and what you want to do about it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Whether you want to have friendships in the first place, comes up in there. And if you do, how do you do that? That kind of thing.
So let's talk about the tools on how to talk to a friend. The one thing that we avoid is talking to our friend when we have conflict. Like me and Tara said, we typically do passive aggressive behavior, or we cut off the friendship off. So what can we do instead of doing that, right? We can
Mm-hmm.
talk to our friends and I think people don't realize that you can have a script when you're going to um, confront your feelings with your friend. And I want to underline confront your feelings. You're not confronting the friend, right? Because that brings up more of a defensive type of conversation when you're confronting your friends. But you're going to say, I'm confronting my feelings about what just transpired, right? So you identify, these are the things that I love about you, I appreciate about the friendship, what this friendship means to me. Identify those things, put them in a place of comfort of knowing that you understand, you see them, you appreciate them, and then you move to resolve in confronting your feelings. Again, not your friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how can how can we, not you, even though you feel like there was a transgression in you, how can we make this friendship better? How can we sustain this friendship in a healthy way? Um, and of course, do the I statements, right? I felt when you didn't celebrate me that you
Mm-hmm.
didn't value me as a friend, that you didn't
Mm-hmm.
value the friendship. And I appreciate things like that, right? So you're letting them know what you need as a friend,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, there is that naming the feeling that I think is so important. You hurt my feelings. When that happens, that hurt my feelings. you know that's something that we get coached to do in romantic relationships all the time. We do this marriage counseling, this premarital counseling, all these things. It's the name the feeling. What did that feel like when your partner did that or said that? Like you said, that you confront the feeling so that you can talk about it. Those same things apply in friendships. That same language
Mhm.
applies in friendships.
And I can't
Yeah.
reiterate it enough that you are confronting feelings, not your friend. You are letting them know how you feel, not how you feel about them, right?
Mhm.
So you take out that defensive nature, that need to defend, and you give an opportunity to hear, listen, and understand and validate.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Oftentimes when we talk about, hearing other folks, we're talking about being silent so that we can actually listen to what's being said. A lot of times what we want to do is we want to prepare our answer, but what we're really saying is that we want this this interaction, you listening to what your friend is saying to you about the feeling that they're bringing up to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important and it's very powerful because you really get to know more about your friend. You get a depth in relationship that you might not have had if you had not had this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that script is so important, like you said, Stacey, because it gives you a guide. It helps you structure things, and it helps you get all the stuff out. It helps you actually complete the sentence.
Right. So
You know?
what I tell a lot of my clients is you have to give yourself grace, right? Because we are not conditioned or taught to have language around healthy confrontation in some of our families. Not all, but in some of our families. So you have to give yourself grace. And the grace is having that script saying, okay,
Yes.
I do it myself because I'm not comfortable. Some people aren't comfortable with confrontation, right? And we have to sometimes take that word away from it. It's
Mhm. Yeah.
grow the relationship. If you don't feel
Mhm.
comfortable with confrontation, take the word completely out, remove it,
Mhm.
right? So it
Yeah.
give you anxiety. Like, I'm going to
Mhm.
confront my friend. No, you're just going to have a conversation about your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you're using, and the script is a tool.
mm-hmm,
It's a tool.
exactly.
It's something that you're using to support yourself in this conversation.
Mm-hmm,
It's just your go-to, your thing that you hold on to so that you can make it through the
right.
conversation. You're right. You know, and like we were talking about, going to therapy helps you find that language. It helps you, first of all, develop a tool that you want to use. It helps you find the language. And a lot of times when you get into the room with us, we'll model that language with you. We'll practice it with you
Mm-hmm,
so that you can take it and say, okay, we've gone through it. We've run through the script a few times. I think, okay, I'm ready. And I have the strength to take this to my friend to
I
talk about this
plenty of
thing.
times with my plenty of times, right?
Yes.
And let's not dismiss the thought of you can go to therapy with your friend. That is
Yes. Yes, that is a thing that certainly can happen.
right.
Um, you know, because it comes into the therapy space all the time. There are things that, you know, surround friendship and relationships that are platonic and that are really soul connections between two women that just get each other, and sometimes they run into a bump. That comes into our therapy space all the time. And so we uplift the value in that relationship. First of all, we tell you that this is important, that it shouldn't be necessarily at the bottom of your list. It shouldn't even be midway down. It should be near the top if it's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we do with relationships that are important to us? We work at them, right? We ask the person, do you want to participate in strengthening this relationship? And if you want to do that, if everybody's in agreement, okay, like you said, Stacey, earlier, how do we do that? One of those things, like we said, is that tool of the scripts that we can, take, or you can bring your friend into therapy and we can go through it right there, and work through the issues and the bumps and the bruises together with that third party right there with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you can then really identify what kind of friendship this is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having all of these unmet expectations, you now
Yeah.
understand what your expectations are. Can this person meet it? No. And they can, it's okay that they cannot meet your expectations.
Yes.
Know
Mm-hmm.
how to go about moving in that friendship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? We're not
Yeah.
requiring them to meet your expectations to be our friend. You're understanding that if they can't meet that expectation, what exactly they are to you. So
Absolutely.
that with that being talked about, with that being
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I talk about that all the time in the way of finding clarity. Let's clarify what we have here. And then when we're clear, then we'll know what the next step is. Right?
mm-hmm,
So if we can clear on what type of friendship this is in the first place, then we know how to behave in that relationship.
mm-hmm,
Then we know, then we can talk about how we want to relate to each other in that friendship.
mm-hmm,
You know, if you ask your friend for a certain thing, like you talk about this expectation, well, I expect, this, in our relationship and your friend says, well, I don't think I can meet that. And we're talking about something like, a small example would be, I expect that every time, I text you, you text me right back immediately within 10 seconds. And your friend might say, I don't think I can do that.
Mm.
And so then we start to talk about, well, what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that we can communicate by text that doesn't mean that I feel upset and I feel unloved if you don't text me right back within 10 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the discussion. And then we get to the clarity, and then we understand where we stand in that friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Either with that particular situation or overall. I think, we could talk about both. We can figure out where we stand with certain things in the relationship. And then we also can find out where we stand in the relationship as a whole, like you said, and then we can look at, well, what type of friendship is this?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that journey, or as we go through that journey, we'll figure those things out. We'll find those things out. We'll get clarity on those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is a broader spectrum, and I think this is a conversation for us to have in the future, but I want to touch on it. When you become friends with someone, that your friend is relating to you based on any trauma or experiences they experienced before being your friend.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do something, it might be triggered by trauma in a previous friendship, right? So you have a friend that in a previous friendship was hurt badly by someone who always put their boyfriend first, and then they not do that, right? So they come to you, start doing the same thing, not in the same way, but they see it coming, right? They see it,
Yes.
of it, and they instantly get triggered, right? And they respond from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's understanding all of those moving pieces, parts, and complexities that are the person that you're in friendship with. If that, right?
Absolutely. It definitely makes sense. If I know where something is coming from, then I can understand my friend better, and we can discuss how we go forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when we have that, we have this increased richness in the relationship, this increased depth in relationship, and we know where each other stands in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even when you talk about, triggers, we can even talk about, things that have happened in your family relationships that have, that spill over into your, the way that you interact in friendships.
Mm-hmm.
What came to mind just a second ago when you said that is I had a friend that would say my name a certain way, and it was sort of that same cadence that would happen when I was like in trouble at home, when something had happened and my mother was like, hey, you need to come correct this. And so I really did have a response to that. And I really could have said, hey, can you we need to talk about how you're stating my name, because it feels a certain way to me when you do that. But I would just instantly get like, stop saying my name like that. Leave me alone. And so again, me being more reactionary, but what we're talking about is this health of, hey, there's something in this that really feels not great to me. Let's talk about that, and let's figure out how we can make that better. Because I don't want to be mean to you because you said, I understand you just saying my name. I get that. Intellectually, I understand that. But there's something that's going on internally that is making me respond to you in a negative way. And so I want us to address that and make that better.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I think that's a whole conversation for us to do, is triggers and traumas and how to support your friend. But let's just kind of wrap this up in managing conflict. The conflicts that we see is that when someone feels like they weren't celebrated, supported, or they feel like their friend is not reaching out enough. Those are kind of the three common conflicts that we see, and we experience those both internally and externally. And we discussed just kind of ways to manage that in regards to journaling, self-reflection, therapy, and having a script to have a conversation with your friend about your feelings. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Confronting the feeling and not your friend.
And, oh, can we say it again? You confront the feeling, not your friend.